Welcome back. It's episode...
something.
Another episode.
Another one.
Coming back at you.
Today we're talking about John David McAfee.
Yes, sir.
I didn't know his middle name until you told me before we started the podcast.
John David McAfee is the topic of today.
Oh my goodness.
Where do we start with this guy? Jesus Christ.
So, Chris brought up the idea of talking about John McAfee. Honestly, I didn't think we would have enough content, but this guy has a wild ass story. This fool is shrouded in a mystery. So, this guy was hired as at NASA as a cybersecurity personnel.
Yes.
And then he decided to create his... Well, you said he was the pioneer in antivirus, right?
Yeah, pioneer of antivirus software. John David McAfee, and keep in mind, he's been around. He was born in September 18th, 1945, man.
45?
45. He was around for World War II.
That's the end of World War II, right?
Well, it ended in 46. But yeah, he was...
Fuck if I know. I paid attention a little bit of world history, but no.
Yeah, he was the creator of the McAfee antivirus software. I'm sure if you had Netscape in the early days, you remember McAfee, right? The McAfee scans.
I did have McAfee antivirus. Yeah. Starting off in the beginning.
Bro, everybody had McAfee. Everybody had the McAfee antivirus scanner because he was the first one to essentially make this program that would run to see if you had any viruses. You know, malware, spyware, Trojanware. This guy was the pioneer that started it all off.
And wow, how his life went.
Yeah, man.
So, Chris did more research than me. So, I'm going to give you what I learned of him. And Chris will fill in the details after. Or I guess stop me whenever you think I'm missing.
No, go ahead.
Key points.
Let it ride.
So, as far as I know, this dude was rich from the get-go. So, before he even created McAfee... the McAfee antivirus, this guy was already balling. You know, he was hired by NASA and stuff like that. So he worked for the company for 3 years, roughly. Ended up selling it to whoever, and ended up getting a beach house out in Belize. I don't even know where Belize is.
Well, we're jumping ahead a bit because a lot of stuff happened before he got to Belize.
Really?
Yeah, man.
Oh shit! I only know about his murder charges. Or suspected murder.
Well, he's wanted for murder charges now.
Is he wanted now?
We're jumping a bit of ahead.
Okay.
So, initially, the humble beginnings of John McAfee...
Humble.
That's one way to put it. The humble beginnings of McAfee was... He created this anti-malware software, right?
All right.
Where it would scan your computer and let you know if you had something buggy in the system.
Yeah.
The thing is, he was only in it for a while, and I think around, God, what was it? Maybe around like 2006, 2005, he had sold the shares to the company. So after McAfee and Associates went public, 2 years after he had sold the shares, and I think he ended up coming out with $100 million. So $100 million, 2005-ish, right?
Okay.
So in 2005, he had sold it for $100 million.
100 million.
2007. Do you remember what happened in 2007?
Oh, wait, you told me. You said that he predicted lightweight predicted the '08 crash.
Yeah.
There is say '08 crash, yeah.
That's why he sold his shares. So he saw the '08 crash coming. He was able to see it, you know, through everything. He was able to predict. He was like, well, this is not going good. Lo and behold, 2008, the stock market crashed, which was essentially... It was the, what was it called? The global financial crisis, right?
Yeah.
With the Lehman Brothers?
Yes.
Yeah. That's...
Well, the '08 crash, that thing was another... I don't know. It was just based around the real estate market.
Yeah. People
were giving out more loans than people can afford.
Yeah.
And just because big stock companies wanted, like, oh yeah, you know, get loans, bundle them, and then we'll sell them off with good loans. So,
right.
You know, the good loan outweigh the bad loan. Eventually, there were too many bad loans to place with good loans.
And the last time we had something that drastic was the Great Depression, right?
Yeah.
Which is insanity to think about, because the Great Depression...
This fool predicted it?
He saw it coming.
How? Like he did the math himself. Because I watched The Big Short.
Yeah.
And in the movie, there's this dude that did the math. Like he was looking at the patterns and stuff like that.
Was that Steve Carell's character?
No, it wasn't Steve Carell. It was the guy that played Batman.
Christian Bale.
But what is real? Is it Christian Bale?
Yeah.
So yeah, the guy that Christian Bale played as, he was he was looking at the market, and he found out a pattern. Like he saw the pattern, and he realized that there was too many bad loans being paired up with good loans. And so he kind of predicted that the market was going to crash.
Really?
And people still doubted him. The investors started saying, "No, you're dumb. The real estate market is the most solid market out there. How can you go bad with that?" And this fool read it. People doubted him, and now he's a fucking millionaire. And I can't believe John McAfee discovered that.
Well, the thing is, as far as the craziest shit that McAfee's done, that is definitely not on the top of the list, right?
No. As far as I know.
Man. Like, it's impressive in its own right that McAfee was able to predict this coming. And that's the most vanilla thing he's done out of his...
He's like a B-rated John Wickman. John Wickman. What was his name? John Wick?
Just Wick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know why I say Wickman.
John Wickman saw it coming.
It's like a B-rated movie.
Yeah, it's funny because McAfee says that throughout his entire life, no Hollywood movie.
There's a fly. Continue.
No. No.
That's fast. Anyways.
Okay. All right. It's funny because McAfee was saying that there has never been a movie in Hollywood that has come close to the roller coaster that's been his ride. And honestly, looking into it, I think he's got a point, man. This guy has been through the ringer. He's gone through hell and back. He's done it all. So McAfee's upbringing, let's just start from the beginning. So McAfee started off in NASA, which is pretty impressive in its own right. Mm-hmm. After that, he had a vision and he created McAfee and Associates, the company that was the software pioneers. Sorry. He was essentially the guy that created antivirus software, which is insanity. Yeah. Because in the beginning of the new era of, internet and technology, this guy realized that Trojanware, malware, spyware was a big enough deal where he realized that people were taking advantage of it. So he created a program. Which, keep in mind, he created this program in a day and a half. And this program became... Really? Yeah, a day and a half, man. It took him a day and a half to create this fucking program that changed the landscape of internet security.
Okay.
And he became filthy rich off it. The funny thing about McAfee is he made a lot of money off this, but the best way I can describe McAfee was a real-life Tony Stark. Just, a fuck ton of money, knew exactly what he was doing, but not...
The coke took over.
Yeah. A lot of drugs were in between.
I heard bath salts.
We'll get to that part. So, McAfee sold his shares, made $100 million, but the problem is the stock market crashed, so money became very tight for him.
Yeah, okay.
So it became a bit of a difficult area for him to maneuver around. So, around 2002... He purchased a bunch of land in New Mexico, a bunch of acres, and he created this. All right, so he created a compound. He had a compound, and what he did was it was called Sky Gypsies. Sky Gypsies, and he created this new sport called arrow trekking. Arrow trekking. When I looked into this, I could not believe. Oh my god, it is insanity. Arrow trekking is essentially having a lightweight vehicle that's light enough to fly where you're going high enough speeds that it can get off the ground. Yeah. So essentially just a really low, lightweight car that's got gliders attached to it that goes so fast and is so light that it's able to pick up the ground.
So he made a sport out of that?
Arrow trekking.
Okay.
Arrow trekking, the sport of arrow trekking is getting in those vehicles, going as fast as possible, and flying as low to the ground as possible at incredibly dangerous high speeds over incredibly rugged terrain. And it was such a ludicrous idea that the board of aviation was just like, this is a terrible idea.
Honestly, like, that sounds kind of badass. Going fast speeds over, like, rugged terrain. I saw some dudes paragliding. So, you know, when you drop your parachute, you have the little things to glide, right? These guys were going through a cavern, dodging, dipping, and they were doing spins within the caverns themselves. When I think about it, it's not that crazy. But what he was doing was, it was motorized?
No. It was essentially...
But you said there were, like, vehicles, right? So
oh, no, yeah, you're right.
Propelled, right?
Yes.
That does sound a little dangerous.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, you know, having a lightweight vehicle to fly fast enough to be light enough to fly off the ground.
Okay.
It's an achievement in its own. The problem is, it became problematic when you're 5 feet above the ground going 90 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour.
Just zipping through dunes.
Yeah, over just like rocks and crevices and
that sounds badass. That sounds badass.
It does in theory, until somebody dies.
Yeah, until somebody dies. All right, somebody died. I guess you have to chill out.
So, November 1st, 2006.
Okay.
One of the pilots and his co-pilot were doing this insane fucking sport, right?
Okay.
Flying over the ground,
Auto-trekking.
Huh?
Auto-trekking?
Yeah, auto-trekking.
That's what it's called? Okay.
What was it? Aero-trekking.
Aero-trekking, okay.
November 1st, 2006, aero-trekking. Fucking 10 feet off the ground, going 100 plus miles over rugged terrain in a lightweight vehicle. Lo and behold, they crashed and died.
What a surprise.
Which isn't funny, you know, in retrospect. Well, no, it's not funny in the moment. In retrospect, it's pretty funny. I mean, what do you expect? You got a vehicle that weighs 80 pounds and you've got 2 people in it. It's like, you know what would be fun? If we went through the Grand Canyon in these vehicles. Like, no, that's a terrible idea. But they did anyways. So
it's kind of badass.
Live fast, die young, man.
Live fast, die in a lightweight flying vehicle.
It was bad. So the problem was the pilot, and again I reiterate, there was a pilot and a co-pilot.
Okay.
The co-pilot was John McAfee's nephew.
Okay.
His name was Joel Bitto.
Okay.
Joel Bitto, 22 years old, co-pilot with this other guy that'd been flying for 3-4 years. Horrible accident. They both died instantly, right?
Okay.
Because, I mean, you got to imagine going that fast over rugged terrain on a lightweight vehicle. If you clip a rock, it's all fucked off.
I can imagine, dude.
Yeah. It's carnage.
These fools are going 90 miles an hour, just zipping and gliding, dodging natural terrain.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, one of them...
Just the pilot.
Clipped the fucking hill.
And...
That's wild.
Could you imagine that, man? Just like, it's essentially... What would the equivalent be? You're flying over incredibly rugged... Alright, so the best metaphor I can think of is you're going super fast, flying over ground, and right below you, there's a cheese grater.
True.
Yeah, man, and...
It's fucking gnarly.
You're going these high speeds, and you hit the cheese grater.
I think this man has a point, though. That is a very cool sport. People do dumb shit going fast. You know, race car driving, NASCAR. NASCAR is regulated as fuck. It's just you're going in a circle.
Yeah.
But still, accidents happen. You know, cars accidentally clip each other and then they spin and tumble. This is just another sport.
But the thing that makes it super interesting is, prior to McAfee, this sport wasn't invented. What
is it called again?
Aero-trekking.
Aero-trekking.
So somehow this NASA ex-employee, pioneer of cybersecurity,
yeah,
decided, you know what would be fun? What if we fly super super fast, super low over cheese graters? Yeah, that does sound fun.
Edgy as hell.
And he bought a compound, man. He bought a compound in New Mexico specifically built for this sport.
Compounds. The word compound itself has such a negative term for me.
There is never anything good that comes out of the word compound. You cannot say on this compound followed by a good example.
No. What's that one dude that had a compound in fucking Washington and he dealt acid and stuff like that?
I don't know.
No?
No.
When I think about compounds, I think about cults.
Yes. Jim
Or
Jones.
like Jim Jones.
Jim Jones had a compound. Don't drink the Kool-Aid?
That was Jim Jones?
Yeah, Jim Jones.
The leader was called Jim Jones. His
Mm-hmm.
name was Jim Jones?
Yeah, Jim Jones of the People's Church, I believe. I could be totally wrong.
Wait, no. Heaven's Gate?
No, totally different dude.
Different? Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fun fact, don't drink the Kool-Aid is completely wrong. They didn't drink Kool-Aid, they drank Flavor-Aid.
So like a knockoff?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, a lot of people committed mass suicide with not even real. There was no, oh yes! It was just...
Capitalism didn't take over that cult.
Yeah, that whole topic is... We should do cults next. That's super interesting.
Yeah. But...
Going back to McAfee.
Yeah, that fool was wild. So, okay, so... I know you did more research than me, so I'm going to say it first. So what I learned is that, after that whole thing about him doing sky trekking and stuff like that,
yeah,
he bought a beach house in Belize, right?
Right.
And since he had a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
He would buy hookers.
Well, hold on.
And did a lot of drugs.
Wait, before we get there, do you know why he moved to Belize?
No.
All right, so the main reason that he moved to Belize was after this aero trekking accident, the pilot's family wanted to sue McAfee.
Okay.
So they wanted to sue him for a wrongful death sue.
Okay.
Because, at the end of the day, it was McAfee's compound, it was McAfee's idea, it was McAfee's plane.
Okay.
So the pilot died by no fault of his own, according to the courts. And the pilot's family was just like, well, this is your fault. So what did McAfee do? Sold his compound, sold his acres, moved to Belize.
So this fool left the country.
Yep. He left the country, and he initially, in the beginning, he was found as... They were trying him as a potential suspect in the murder case because it was ruled out as murder.
Really?
A homicide.
Really?
Once he left to Belize, the trial kept going, and it was ruled McAfee was responsible for the death of the pilot and his nephew.
Okay.
So once he moved to Belize,
yeah,
there's nothing you could do. You're not in the States anymore. So essentially he moved because he had the money.
Yeah. He
moved to a new country and he had a quote unquote clean slate.
Okay.
It didn't last very long.
That's wild. I mean, can you really charge him though?
Yes. They sued him for wrongful death.
I feel like if he would have signed a contract releasing himself, like, I'm willingly doing this on my own will, he could have gotten out of it.
Right.
But I guess assuming that he was family, he just...
No, the pilot wasn't his family. It was the co-pilot. The co-pilot was his nephew, but the pilot was just...
it wasn't John McAfee that was the pilot?
No, John McAfee. No.
Okay.
The problem is, again, McAfee created aero tracking.
Okay.
So this was a construct of what he imagined, and he was pitching it to rich people. So he's telling them, like, it's crazy, it's fun if you get these lightweight vehicles.
Extreme sport.
Yeah, extreme sport. And again, the board of aviation was told him multiple times. They're like, this is a terrible idea. This is not safe. Don't do this. But he didn't care because it was his property. It was his land. It was his idea. And he didn't think anything could go wrong.
Right.
So flash forward. The accident happens. 2006, it happens.
Okay.
The pilot's family sues him.
Okay.
So they're telling him this was a wrongful death on your case. So this went on for about 2 years. And he moved to Belize in 2008.
Oh, wait. Okay.
Yeah. So in 2008, he gets to Belize. And he didn't waste any time. Initially, when he moved to Belize, he wanted to retire because at this point, he was maybe, 60. He was in his 60s when he moved to Belize.
Okay.
So when he got to Belize, Belize is an island, and I might be mixing this up. It's an island in Spain, I think. Well, it's an island somewhere.
Fuck if I know.
So when he got to the island, there was a ferry business that the locals had. And this ferry would essentially, take people where they had to go. If it was off the island, it'd take them to wherever they needed to go. When John McAfee got there, he started his own ferry business, and he did it for a third of the cost of what, the domestic ferry business was doing. So everybody gravitated towards him. He let kids ride free to go to schools that were off the island. So the community was fucking with him super heavy. And he essentially, in 3 months, he put all of the ferry businesses out. Because his business was so prosperous that it knocked out the competition in 3 months, man.
Really?
3 months he knocked out the ferry business.
This dude's calculated.
On another list of accolades that he did, created that ferry business, became a coffee producer, very well loved by everybody.
Really?
Yeah. And he also started researching into making his own antibiotics.
All right. So that's where okay, so what I learned, that ferry business and that coffee business didn't come up.
Yeah.
So what I learned was that fool came into Belize after making so much cash, as you know, he retired basically.
Yeah.
What I read and what I learned, he retired basically in Belize. He bought a beach house and decided to just have orgies in his house, dude. Apparently, he had like seven or maybe what you call them, prostitutes?
Girls he met at the bar.
Yeah, so there's these girls at the bar, but the documentary I read, the documentary I watched, mentioned that the bar he frequented a lot, the owner knew him very well, and so
he'd let them know.
Yeah, he let them know what girls were available,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess he had a lot of underage girls, like 16, 17, that would come over to his beach house. Like he would ship them. So the bar was off the island he was, so he would go off the island to that bar, talk to the bar owner, and the girls he liked, he would ship over to his island.
Yeah, because you have to keep in mind, anywhere that you go that's foreign,
yeah, if
you see an American, you're going to think he's got money, obviously. Because when McAfee went to Belize, he was 63. 63 when he went to Belize, and even at that age, he was still a womanizer through and through.
Yeah, because like he said, he has 7 girls that he would like frequent and have over his house.
Yeah.
He was like, he has a video out too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where he mentions like, yeah, I did have 7 girls. Occasionally, all 7 would be at my house.
Yeah, McAfee was,
and apparently some of the girls would try to kill the dude. Like he would try to, some of the girls he brought over would try to kill John McAfee.
Yeah, well, it's funny because
what the fuck?
The thing is, during that same interview, and again, at 63 years old, John McAfee was a sex-obsessed, hard-hitting... he was a sex addict at 63. It's funny because in that interview, the girls are saying, it's like, John would try to have sex 8 times a day. I'd be tired, and he'd say, no, let's have sex. He would just fucking go and go and
Dude,
go.
I heard that. Like,
yeah, man.
One of his main girls, Samantha...
Yeah.
She told her story, and she said, like, when he had those days, when you woke up, it would be sex all the way until the next morning.
Yeah, man.
He just wanted you in bed.
Yeah.
Fuck.
And his energy never stopped, bro. It was just consistent, man.
And one of the girls tried to shoot him. So, okay, apparently one of the girls got jealous that he had other girls at the house. So at one point, she pulled out a gun. His own gun, I think, too, right?
John McAfee is a huge believer
and
in the Second
apparently that
Amendment.
fool also is strapped as fuck.
Super pro gun.
Always has a gun on him, and always has guns all around the house.
No matter the controversy, first and foremost, American.
So apparently, girl grabs the gun, points at him, says, like, in whatever language people speak in Belize.
I think they were Spanish. I'm gonna look up words.
But she's fucking talking shit to John McAfee, and I guess she misses. He's
Twice.
pointing at the head, misses, and shoots near the ear. And John McAfee talks about that incident, and he says, "Oh, yeah, I'm still deaf over that fucking incident."
So Belize is in the Central American jungles and also borderline Caribbean Sea. So he's literally in the boonies.
In the boonies?
He's got jungle on one side and the sea on the other side. So he's in a small little island town.
And that is... Oh, man. And on top of that, this dude had so he had attack dogs at his beach house and armed guards.
That's very important to remember. John McAfee loves animals, adores them.
Yeah.
He's one of the few people that, for him, his dogs were family.
Yeah.
He was very attached to these dogs, and that's important to remember later on.
All right, so let's continue with the story. So, as far as I learned, he had attempts at his life from the lovers and prostitutes he had. At one point, he funded his local police, so the Belize Police Department.
Yep. He
funded them with rifles, ammunition, and all that shit.
Essentially, McAfee was building his own militia. He was becoming a small dictator.
Yeah, and so what I learned after that, he started hiring ex-convicts and shit like that into his own private arsenal.
Yeah, man.
And he basically pushed out all the drug dealers out of Belize.
Yeah.
And then, apparently, a politician from Belize contacted John, telling him that, hey, since you took out all my drug dealers that were giving me cuts, I need $2 million from you.
Well, close. A representative came out and on behalf of the government was like, hey, if it'd be a shame if something were to happen to you, because keep in mind, during this time, McAfee was super heavy into, when the representative came out, he was hard in the process of making his own antibiotics. There were also rumors that he was messing around with bath salts.
So, kind of like a tangent, but you're right. He was messing with his own antibiotics. This fool had no knowledge in biology. Zero. And he just caught on. He's trying to catch a hype train, basically.
Yeah.
He caught on. So I forgot what the name of it, of the scientific
Let's look it up.
name. So this fool heard about a certain type of research that accelerated the findings of antibiotics. So there was a way to accelerate finding antibiotics that cured certain diseases. But at the end of the day, he couldn't do it. He basically quit. But good on him. Jesus Christ. This fool is an entrepreneur through and through. Starting his own ferry business, starting his own coffee company, dabbling in antibiotics, even though he has no training in biology or physiology. From what does it say? What does the title of the article say?
From antivirus to antibiotics.
From antivirus to antibiotics. This fool, in his compound, he had the whole lab.
Yeah, man. And that's the thing that's interesting. The government essentially, and again, the problem with McAfee is he's such an enigma that, like you were saying earlier, every interview he has a different story. He has a different side to the story. No story ever really matches up. So initially, he said the government raided him for no reason at all. And the government said their justification for raiding his compound was McAfee says he was trying to find a new strain of antibiotic, but the government said he's messing with bath salts, so he's trying to produce bath salts. So 28 paramilitary troopers ran in his compound. They ransacked the place. They caused millions in damage, and they shot his dogs right in front of him. Also, he got, according to McAfee, he got tortured by the government, by the soldiers.
So this fool had a ferry business going. He was pushing drug dealers out of Belize. He had a coffee company making antibiotics. And then the government said,
keep in mind, this is all
John McAfee, I'm tired of your bullshit.
This is all after he pioneered anti-malware software. Scratch that. And this is all after he was directly responsible for the death of his nephew and a pilot of a sport that he created. Don't Aerotrek. Full disclaimer.
Oh my god. I saw that part. He said, yeah, they killed my dog. Do you think I'm gonna let it down? That's some John Wick shit.
Okay, and see, again, that's very important. Remember how much he loves dogs, because this is crucial to the next segment that we're going to get into.
Okay.
So, all this is happening, right? He's essentially becoming a small-time dictator, funding the police himself. He's making his own militia. He's knocking all these local businesses out, and he's the sole proprietor of all the businesses that are replacing him. Etc., etc., etc. Gets raided by the Belize government because according to him, allegedly, he doesn't want to pay the fee that they're requesting of him, which is $2 million.
Okay.
So after that raid, the representative came back and said, have you changed your mind? And according to McAfee, he said, quote unquote, go fuck yourself. And from there, the only thing, most people would get scared, right? A government sends its military after you to intimidate you. But what does fucking John McAfee do? Beefs up security, buys more guns, increases, his compound. He still has a compound in Belize. He just beefs up the security, and essentially he just looks at the government's like, what, motherfuckers? Like, come get me. Fucking try me next time. So, the government, according to McAfee, there's a conspiracy that the government's trying to take him down. And again, according to McAfee, there are tapes that he was able to get a hold of. There were tapes that he's able to get a hold of, and there's recordings of the Belize government trying to conspire against him and saying, we have to assassinate him. And McAfee says that he swears that he found the recordings, and they're talking about either sniping him or using explosives to kill him, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Castro.
Yes, exactly.
Castro shit.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so he heard the tapes, and he figured out that they wanted to take him out. Ah, man, it's insanity.
So let's move on to the murder charges.
Okay, so this is important.
Because I feel like it might have been a ploy by the government to get him arrested.
Well, see, that's what he's saying. All right, so around 2008, 2009,
yeah,
he had a neighbor. Also, so in Belize, it was him, and his neighbor was also an American citizen, a war veteran. And it was well known that his neighbor disliked McAfee's dogs.
I heard that. Yeah.
Because, again, McAfee was a huge animal lover. He had these dogs that he adored.
Cat dogs, basically.
Yeah. So there had been records where his neighbor was saying, you need to tell those dogs to stop barking or I'm going to kill them.
Poison them. I heard poison
Yes,
them.
he said, I'm going to poison those dogs. So one night, and again, this is all speculation, the neighbor threw over pieces of meat that were poisoned. He threw over pieces of meat that were poisoned. The dogs ate them naturally. And they started dying. So John McAfee had to put them out of their misery. He shot his dogs himself.
Yeah.
And again, McAfee, huge animal lover. And he loved these dogs like they were blood. The very next day, his neighbor was found murdered in his own home, execution style. Conspiracy implodes, man. So the neighbor's maid found his body shot in the back of the head, and there was so much shit going on. So they started going over everything, and they were saying they remembered, somehow it came up that he had threatened McAfee, and McAfee was known for being a little extreme, and he was known for being a gun nut and loving his dogs, and this guy's creating antibiotics. Again, McAfee, not the most conventional person. He's a little nuts on the surface. So the government uses this to try to arrest him. Okay. The thing is, the next day, McAfee's nowhere to be found.
Yeah, so that's what I heard too.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently, he doesn't explain why, but the next day, his security guards and one girlfriend dip. Yep. And they head for Guatemala.
Yep.
And on the ride, he hits up Vice
News.
And brings 2 reporters with him.
Yes.
So he's giving his whole story to the Vice reporters. Vice reporters don't realize the extent of the situation, and they post a picture, but the picture contains GPS locations of where he is. The Belize government find him, arrest him, but the way he gets out of it, this fool fakes a heart attack, and that sends him back to the States.
He gets extradited to the States.
Yeah. He fakes a fucking heart attack. Yep. Gets extradited to the States.
Yep. So
what a fucking story.
So the thing is, he faked a heart attack, and then they're getting him ready to go to the States, and then when the paramedics are trying to take off his clothes, he's had a heart attack, and they're trying to rip off his clothes. He goes, no, wait. Don't take it off in front of the cameras. And the paramedics are like, what the hell? Like, I thought you had a heart attack. He faked a heart attack, got extradited to the U.S., and then Belize's government can't do anything about it.
But it sounds fishy to me though. Like, if you're not guilty, why run? Why? I mean, if you have an alibi, why run? And then I saw, so the reporters, I guess it was like the European people, some European news channel was looking into it too. They talked to Samantha, which was one of the girlfriends he had. Yeah. And she's the girlfriend that he took with him on the run. And they were talking to her, and apparently, she said that night, John was at the house. Like, he saw John the whole night, apparently. Quote unquote. Allegedly. That's so weird to me. That same news channel interviewed the parents of the
murder victim.
And they said, like, I kind of want to believe John that he wasn't at fault, but why run? Why not stay, tell your truth? Yeah. And he ran. And now he's using my son as kind of like a promotional tool for himself. Yeah. And it kind of leads off into, like, the man he is now. He is shrouded in infamy, basically. The creator of an antivirus that's hard to uninstall. Basically,
did you see that video where he tries explaining how to uninstall it?
Yeah, we're saying, I don't know what you want me to do. I left the company after 3 years. Stop hitting me up.
And he says, I would help you, but I'm busy banging all these prostitutes and doing all this cocaine.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, well, not funny, but, out of everything that this man did, he'd been married one time, but his second wife, after he left his first wife, was a prostitute. He married a prostitute, so he pulled a full pretty woman on some lady.
So during the interview, I talked to her, his current wife, and apparently they were in Miami. John was at a coffee shop, and she was walking past the coffee shop, and apparently John yelled out and said, "Hey, you got the greatest ass in Miami." And that was over. That's love. And that was it. She said, "I saw him as a client, but this won me over, and now we're married." So the interview I saw was in 2013, and this fool had already gone through the thing of him
in Belize.
He left Belize, got caught, and was extradited to the U.S. He lived in Portland. Yep. And I don't know. It's weird. Because apparently he has a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. Kind of.
Because since he was able to afford a house in Belize, all these weapons, funded the fucking Belize police department, and was able to start up an antibiotic company. Also, allegedly bath salts. And he dabbled in bath salts.
And that's what I'm saying, man. He's like you know what Bizarro is to Superman? This is what John McAfee is to Bizarro to Iron Man. He's everything Iron Man shouldn't do. Tony Stark, he's the bad Tony Stark, essentially.
Yeah, so fast forward to 2013 for him. He's in Portland renting out an apartment, and when the people are in there recording, they pan over his room, and at the windowsill, right at the edge, there's just guns laying down, small pistols and shit. And this guy, they're interviewing him and asking him questions about him, saying, "Hey, why do you have so many guns?" And he all he says is, "I'm paranoid. And if I wasn't paranoid, McAfee antivirus wouldn't have been invented."
Yeah, which is a good point.
And it makes sense, though. This fool is just over-the-top paranoid. Mm-hmm. Like, he feels like someone's always out to get him. Yeah. This fool was living, at the time of the interview, in Portland. He picked his apartment room, or his room, specifically to look over the main street of the building. Yeah. So he said, "Oh, I can always watch who's coming in and out."
And his paranoia took him a long way, man. Because, he started, it's like you're saying, he created McAfee antivirus software because he was paranoid of all these things that could happen. And up until, Edward Snowden, when he did the leak, people thought it was out of the realm of possibility for the government. Like, nah, they're not watching this. But McAfee always knew. He was like, well, is it really that crazy? So the way I view McAfee is he insane? I wouldn't say insane. Is he paranoid? 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Is he nuts? Yeah, definitely. Is he crazy? No, not at all, man. Because he saw all this shit coming prior. He realized the power that technology had to spy on you. He realized that the government would be able to check in on you without your knowledge. And this guy, he seems like he's insane because of all these events that he's had, his colorful past. End of the day, he's not really that nuts. Because he's still around and he's been in the game as long as he has because he's been paranoid, because he's been, always on his toes, man.
Okay. So you're telling me, okay, now
minus the bath salts.
This fool has gone through so much coke and bath salts. You were telling me that now he's dabbling in Bitcoin, and that apparently he made a
bet.
A bet that by 2020, if Bitcoin doesn't reach $1 million, he's gonna eat his own dick.
He's gone on the record saying that, and the funny thing is, there's a timer online that says it's counting down. It shows the current value of Bitcoin and how long until 2020. Let me look it up right now. So timer.
We only have 4 months left.
Yeah. The dickening countdown to John McAfee.
The dickening.
Dick eating. So
there is 500 days left.
So per John McAfee, when I predicted Bitcoin at 500,000 by the end of 2020, it used a model that predicted 5,000 at the end of 2017. BTC Bitcoin has accelerated much faster than my model assumptions. I now predict Bitcoin at $1 million by the end of 2020. I will still eat my dick if wrong.
He linked a picture. I wonder what that picture is.
It's not his dick. So, this person says, 1 BTC Bitcoin, $500K within 3 years. And John McAfee says, if not, I will eat my dick on national television. The timer is currently at 500 days, 22 hours, 56 minutes, and 24 seconds. Clock's ticking, John.
This fool is an entrepreneur through and through.
You know what else is crazy? He's running for president in 2020.
That's a lie. I've seen the roster.
What?
He's not on there.
Really?
What party is he running for?
God, what was his political party? Is something super abstract. You've got Democrats, Republicans, and then
there's also Green Party and shit like that.
He's in one of the most abstract parties.
I have no doubt that fool did not make the campaign.
Please go on about him while I look this up.
I don't know. So my idea of him is that
libertarian.
What is it?
Part of the Libertarian Party.
Libertarian?
Mm-hmm.
This guy is he's just running. He's just taking advantage of the lore around him.
Well, the thing is, he ran in 2016.
He did?
Yeah, but it didn't work out, obviously, so he's trying again in 2020.
He's just living off his infamy. He's just shrouding himself in mystery. And honestly, that works. Mysterious people are profitable.
Mm-hmm.
And people want to know more about you. And the more you stay in mystery, the more people are intrigued of you. This guy's just cashing in. And good for him. Look at him. He's all over the fucking place. Old but still relevant.
Well, the thing is, the latest charge on him is...
Latest charge,
because, again, this guy has a very colorful history. He's openly admitted for 8 years he has not paid taxes to IRS.
Really?
Yeah, he just straight up says, I don't believe in paying taxes. Fuck you guys. So now, because of that, he's wanted for tax evasion. He's exiled himself, and the last people have heard of McAfee was he's somewhere on international waters on a boat, and he's running for president through there. That's his plan. So his plan is essentially he's going to run for president on international waters somewhere on a boat, and he's going to use proxies as his to spread his message.
Right.
And God, it is the funniest thing because he was explaining it, and he said he had a 2-part system. God, if I can find it, but just go on about this guy. Let me see if I can find it. Oh wait, hold on. So he says First, we have our road warriors, who once a month are going to appear in parks, street corners, restaurants, and all around America while I speak through loudspeakers through them. What? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Group 2 are people who will be going to conferences, doing keynotes and debates, he added. And all these people that are his proxies are going to be wearing masks of his face. This guy is fucking insane. He does not even seem like a person at this point. He seems more myth than man.
I am trying to compute now. This is a lot of information now. You think he's narcissistic?
Oh man, that's a good question.
Because I think he is. This whole thing, this whole debacle, always making up stories and lying. Because apparently he's known to lie to reporters. Me and you talked about it.
Yeah.
His
stories don't match up.
Yeah, we have different stories. That's legitimately a good strategy. Because most people are willing... You know, it's interesting to try to unravel a mystery.
Yeah.
And as a person like him, there's a lot of lore behind him.
Yeah.
Accused of murder, you know.
Check.
Fucking
creating his own antibodies.
Yeah.
Check.
Tax evasion. Is it all true?
Pioneering fucking anti-malware technology.
Yeah. Who
Check.
fucking knows?
And see, you know, there might be some inconsistencies to what he says.
There's a lot of inconsistencies.
The cool thing is, not cool, but the thing that's so interesting about this guy is his record speaks for himself, right? You can follow his history, and sure, at some points it might get a little jaded.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, John McAfee is I'll say it, he's the pinnacle of shitposting. This guy is unrivaled in the situations he gets himself in, the way he presents himself, his achievements, and to still be a massive troll. I mean, with that whole McAfee video where he was essentially making fun of people that still had McAfee installed on their computer, he's just like, yeah, it is stupid. Get fucked. What do you want me to do about it? Like, I'm going to be over here with my guns
fucking
and my
all these hookers and doing all this blow.
Yeah, man. Pinnacle of shitposting. John McAfee, you got to respect the guy because he's an entity in his own right. And the thing is, he's been around this long, and I agree with what you're saying, where he's in the shadows for the most part, but once you look into the shadows, this guy's history is just fucking insanity. He's wanted on 2 cases of murder. He essentially ran an island, and he almost became fucking Fidel Castro for that island. The government, according to him, the government wanted him dead. And allegedly, they framed him for killing his neighbor. Just see, like, that small snippet of who John David McAfee is fucking nuts. And the cool thing about this guy is he's very vocal. He's not one to let the tabloids say things about. It's a double-edged sword, right?
Okay.
You've got this guy that says, yeah, you know, I went through this, that, and this. And maybe there's bias because, of course, you're going to want to make yourself look good in your own light. But what if there's truth to what he's saying, too? It's a thin line, and it's up to whoever's listening to decide if they think it's true or if they think it's false or make their own decisions. But the one thing that McAfee has been throughout his entire career, I think, in my opinion, he's been pretty genuine. That guy will straight up tell you, yeah, you know,
I fucked you over.
Yeah,
I scammed you.
Yeah, I married a prostitute. Yeah, I had all these girls that I was with. Yeah, I'm a huge gun nut. Yes, the government's lying to you. Of course the stock market's going to crash. And it's just very genuine. One thing that's funny about him, he's very anti-media. So in a lot of interviews, you know, they have a lot of B-roll where he says, do not twist what I say. I'm going to let you interview me as long as you post exactly what I'm saying. Exactly the way I'm saying it. If you alter this in any way, then I don't consent to the interview. Which makes no sense because he has to sign a waiver before he interviews, but still, he gets it out there. So, the guy, super interesting. Whoops. Just very interesting. An enigma. And if he's serious about running for president and eating his dick, I'll be there in 2020.
I'm waiting for him to eat his dick because I don't think Bitcoin is going to reset for him.
Nah, man, not at all. The guy's huge in cryptocurrency too. He's an advocate for cryptocurrency.
Really?
Yeah, he thinks that it's the next step in currency for the States. He thinks it's going to take over. He's so confident that he says he'll eat his dick.
That's a fucking trip, dude. That's a trip.
All right. I think we'll wrap it up here because this is overheating.
All right, boys and girls. We still don't have an intro. Outro.
You know. Yeah.
Yeah.
See you next time.